Okay, so this is the Finance Committee meeting. It's Wednesday, July 30th, 2025 at 3 p.m. We are at our physical location at the Ocean Shores Library, and then we also have Zoom available. We have some citizens on the line, but most importantly, at this very moment in the path that we're on, we have Tara Dunford, who's the city CPA and is helping us do this, what we have said is a massive cleanup project of the city's financials. You'll see that we had one, our normal monthly financials that we go over, and then number two is the cost allocation process and reviewed. I want to switch those. Tara, I want to be respectful of Tara's time. She's just going to do like a 30,000 foot overview of the next month's process that Shantae, myself, and Tara at the end of it all will go through to kind of do the cleanup project that the city council approved meeting before last. So Tara, did you want to start, and I can put in things wherever you'd like?
Sure, sounds good. Hi, Finance Committee. Thank you for having me back. I really just wanted to use this time to answer any questions that the Finance Committee had based on the council meeting, and then clarify a few things as far as process. So our next steps in the process are to create the new codes for cost allocation, undo the prior transfers that have been booked for 2025, and then start the new coding process. There is some in the weeds, behind the scenes things that need to get done to accomplish that. But Sarah, Shantae, and I met earlier this week and believe that that should be a fairly straightforward process that can be accomplished in August. I do want to clarify a few things from the meeting. We did have a citizen comment and ask about transfers to the street fund was something that jumped out at me. I want to clarify that that's not changing as part of this plan. So the subsidization of funds from the general fund to other funds is still continuing as it has been and as budgeted. That process is something different and separate from cost allocation. So really what we're doing in cost allocation is simply moving costs from the general fund to the appropriate funds based on our plan. How that impacts transfers is that to date, the city has booked cost allocation as transfers into the general fund, so a revenue source, and then transfers out of the funds being charged. That's really the piece that's not correct accounting. So correct accounting is we reduce the costs in the general fund and we increase the costs or expenses in the funds being charged. Transfers in and out shouldn't be used. That overinflates the city's revenue to include that. The city has gone through a manual process of correcting that for annual financial reporting, a very tedious process to correct it. So this is just going to bring the budget in line with correct accounting and with what we're already doing for financial reporting purposes for the audit. And then the other piece of this that I think is important to mention is that we're eliminating Fund 439. So I know Finance Committee is working on a code cleanup process and streamlining the general ledger, which is great. Your general ledger is way overcomplicated for a city of your size, and Fund 439 is just one example of that, and cleaning that up and moving it into the cost allocation process will streamline your books, streamline annual reporting, streamline budgeting, and it has a net impact of 0 on the city's actual budget. So we're not adding expenses or increasing revenues or decreasing revenues. It's simply correcting the accounting. So I'd like to just open it up for questions unless there are specific topics that you'd like me to dive into further.
I do have a question. I think you covered it, but my question is where are you in the finance department? Where are you at in making these new cost allocations? Is that in progress, or there's still pieces to fall into place before the process actually gets underway? To the degree that I understand, it sounds like a fabulous process. It's many years overdue being done. Just where are we at in the completion of, is my question.
So I could take that, Tara.
Yes, thank you.
So we have about 7 action items that we've identified with Tara's help. And out of those 7 action items, 6 and 7 is where we'll utilize Tara. But 1 through 5 will be Shantae and myself, and that's the creation of funds, fixing the 439 account, so on and so forth. We will begin that process after we complete the July financials, the first week, half week of August. And our anticipation is that we'll have all of those corrections, input, and look how we would like them to, so that when we release the financials for August, they will reflect all of the changes that have been made. A part of that process, which we looked at those action items and are we even gonna pull this off by December before we like talk through it? Is going in and taking all of those things that have happened from January to July, or excuse me, January to August at that point, and fixing them back to what we want them to look like going forward. So what's gonna ultimately happen is it's gonna look the way it should have from January on, once we fix everything in August. So our anticipated date of you seeing a reflection of all of this work will be the financials for August, first week of September.
So then a follow-on question that this may not be the appropriate time, is the project that we, the finance committee, worked on in finding the, I'm gonna call them zero sum accounts.
Yep, so we took your identification, we went through those, had Tara go through those. We have 2 questionable ones that we'll deep dive into, but that will be an archive process. We will never delete, ever, never delete, in case there's some reason to bring it back, or, you know, it's one we maybe needed. Historic value. So what we do is we just archive. So what will happen is all of those accounts that you continue to see that make the revenue and expenditures a book like this, but they've just been zeros for this long, will no longer exist except for in the back end of the archive system.
So what's the timing for that?
I'm just trying to.
Let me ask, Denise had, she popped in right there. We're going to attempt to get that done, at the same time that all of those might end up reflecting in September's financials, first week of October. Our huge goal will be those, actually action item 7 won't even be until the end of the year, but 1 through 6 we'll try and get well before that archiving project. But the beautiful part of that is those are identified, so as we're going through, you know, if it's that easy, we can just boom, boom, boom.
It's
Yeah.
easy to archive those bars codes that we've already talked about archiving, so it'll just be.
So not as time intensive.
No,
Good.
didn't make me sweat.
That's what I was concerned
We're good.
about. is
No,
archiving all
that's
that
the easy
stuff.
No,
part.
that's the
the
button.
easy
That's-
part.
So I just want to clarify, and again, I know I speak for myself, and I think for the rest of the finance committee, we are hugely, what's the word? You guys have done a fantastic job, supportive of what you guys have been doing, and I'm in no way trying to pressure or hurry. I just want to understand, and is there anything else I or we can do to help you in this whole endeavor?
I don't think so at this moment. I think what will be the really selling ticket is that when we get those financials prepared, reflecting August actuals, is that you guys immerse yourselves in them and understand them in a way that you feel confident in the corrections that all of us as a team with Tara's help have achieved and can be able to, because I think that's the whole motivator behind this, is that I don't feel like the finance department or finance committee in past times could go up and have a question asked of them and be able to articulate it, because it was just too confusing. So that's the ultimate goal. If you guys are able to achieve that, then I feel like we've done the job. So that'll be where you guys come into play next.
Well, and I think just with the sample you gave us of what it will look like,
that will not only be easy for council to understand, but for the citizens in the community to be able to look at it and have it make sense without going through 500 pages.
Yeah, I agree.
Good to go, thank you.
Tara, did you have anything else that you wanted to touch on this project with them, or that sum it up?
You know, the one thing when I was looking at my notes ahead of time, the one thing we didn't touch on, and I just want to see where you guys are at with this. When we were looking at the municipal vehicles codes, when we first started this, we determined that fuel and repairs and maintenance were being charged 100% to the general fund for all city vehicles. And we talked about starting to direct code those. I'm just wondering if that's been done or if we want to or need to include it in cost allocation.
We'll need to include it because
Yeah.
we want them to, I mean, we shouldn't be, you know, subletting from the general fund to pay for storm
Yeah, I
vehicles.
think we wanted to do the whole project all at once too, so that if we're
Mhm.
redoing the cost allocation and archiving, that we are also implementing the municipal vehicle codes.
Okay, so I would suggest with that then, as you start receiving invoices for fuel and repairs and maintenance of vehicles, that you start direct coding to departments,
Okay.
really anytime.
So-
And
so
since
now-
we're here on August 1st, you might as well start with that. Off.
That's easy enough.
I have a bars code question, and the library, for example, which doesn't have any vehicles, but I've been so busting my brain and my buns on this deck project. I'm only operating on about 3 cylinders. But if I understand correctly, what Tara just said is, for example, a library would be 001, whatever the library is, for whatever it is. And then if they had a vehicle, then it would be those last 3 or 5 or 6 digits would annotate that or would signify that that is a vehicle gas.
It
Cool.
says fuel.
It says fuel, okay.
Yeah,
And-
it
and
says fuel and then they have a repairs and maintenance code.
So then just to,
They used to do it that way, so.
Yeah, at some point they decided,
So those
and I think it
codes
was,
are still
it
there.
was during like the shuffle of people because they kind of, we went to a new mayor and new lead of streets and a new lead of this and a new lead, and I think they just found vehicle maintenance and just started putting it in there. And until we went through this budget process, it wasn't as apparent as it is now. So we'll just, it'll be easy enough. And it'll reflect in the financials.
so just to weld the loop closed, sometimes I may not, I apologize, but that's the way my mind works. That if we were looking at Marshall's vehicle, that whatever the bars code to get to Marshall, then the last of that bars code would be Marshall's vehicle's fuel.
Correct.
Okay, and whatever those numbers.
Planning, yeah.
And those are part of the numbers as we go through this bars code, big realignment, whatever the right title is to assign those correct digits.
Yeah, and most of them already have them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else for Tara?
Thanks for all your.
Rockstar.
Right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Tara, before you sign off, I want to, and I hope I took my golf shoes off because sometimes they scratch when they go down my throat. I was skeptical at first, but I've got to say, when I see from the finance committee and what I've been doing, thank you so much for all of the work that you have done and for your knowledge and expertise. It appears to me that our finance, which I always thought was stellar, is a galaxy beyond stellar, approaching the galaxy beyond stellar. So thank you and thank the finance.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to help and thank you for the feedback. It's a great team to work with.
All right, thanks, Tara.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
And really, thank you to the finance department for initiating
Yeah.
all of this scrutiny,
Yeah.
which had not been done.
Us, it's easy
It
for
makes
you.
way more sense.
Yeah.
We were beating our heads against the door. Okay, so June monthly financials. So this month, and for those of the individuals online and in the room that don't know, is that we upload our monthly financials when they have been prepared and reviewed and signed off on. Shantae puts them all together, balances all of our bank accounts, our funds and outstanding checks, everything, and then I go through and review everything and sign it off, and once it's fine, we send those to Nicole and she uploads them to FilePro and Laserfish, because everybody's still getting used to the two different systems. That information then, gets sent out to the council by me. And then once that has officially gone out, Shantae sends that to all department heads and leads so that they can then review their financials. If they have any questions, they can set up meetings, or fix something if they realize they've coded something wrong. It used to just be a shootout of those links and that was it. We've started writing information because, it's not fair for council members to have questions and then they forget about those questions because people get busy and we get to council and, that would have been a good thing to relay. So this month we had 3 takeaway notes, if you will, that we sent out with the financials. One specifically is that when Shantae, as the assistant treasurer, was processing, all of the funds that we get in from state departments, county departments, we started seeing, and really for the first time, I don't think we started seeing these little negative amounts. And so that like sent up the little flares in our eyes or our ears. And we were like, that's not right. And it was $7, $24, $19. But then there was $3,000 from liquor excise tax. And you'd think that those amounts wouldn't be that big of a deal, but there was no notification at a glance on any of these documents that came from the state or the county stating why. And so what Shantae did is she sent mass emails to the state, she sent mass emails to the county, and she said, hey, what's going on? From the county, we got told, oh, well, there's 2 little lines that are about 0.8 font down at the bottom that tell you, and we had already got one from the state, and the county, it was different. But the state had said that they had done an overpayment in 2 months prior. And so they were offsetting that overpayment that they had done to the county, which then reflected in our county money to us and reflected in the state money. So because that was super abnormal, we thought that that was noteworthy for the council to know, of course, and then I'm not sure department heads are looking at it because we're really the only ones that look at excise tax and stuff like that. But you want to say more on that specific
I
one?
think you pretty much covered it. I
Yeah.
mean, I do have the full answer that I received back from the state. And I don't want to misquote it, but it does seem like there were some budget comments that were also in the message. And I would be more than happy to provide that the next finance meeting so that I can have a technical answer for you.
Our feedback to them specifically after that is that I didn't think that it was reasonable that a municipality should have to chase around the county and the state to find an answer that we got negative money after never getting negative money. I do think that your descriptions or your notations or what have you should be better. That was our feedback to them. Because it just caused time that it just didn't need to. Denise?
So a question on negative money, does that mean that we owe them?
Or
Or,
instead of us receiving money for like the liquor excise tax, they deducted money.
They took it
And
out of what
we
got.
weren't the only city, like it was, so, these are state remits. Ours don't, we each get our individual one, but it was enough for them to put a notice on everybody's statement. And so depending on the amounts that you had received or what the state was negative is what you were deducted. So,
If we should have gotten 40, they took the 19 out of that 40.
okay,
yeah,
And it wasn't amounts where like it was a multi-month cycle that we were gonna have to pay back. It was just, it took them 2 months to catch it and we wouldn't know, you know what I mean? We wouldn't know that they overpaid us. So there's no calculation we can do in those statements to like verify their numbers. It's one of those,
So the state overpaid us.
correct.
And do we have to pay that back, or are they just going to take the money out of the next?
They already
payment?
did.
That's what I.
Yeah, that's what they already did. So, and that's where we reflected that what bars and account that they took, that wasn't being included. So that was note one, which is, it just felt noteworthy because if you were to look, we've never had statements with negatives on it. So we felt, given the feedback we gave, that, it deemed an explanation on our part. Note two, so when we do the, expense summary page, that's always that first page of your fund summary. And at the top in red, it'll say what our targets are at, or what our target should be at, and we should be at 25% of these funds, and, I think it was Finance Committee member Wills had gotten a question from another,
Yeah. I
council
think-
member that prompted, yeah. So City Hall shows that it's at 49.60%. So this was another noteworthy deal. When you go through our expenditures that fall under City Hall, which you can find as you go through this financial summary, the reason for this 49.60%, 110% directs to the erosion control that we've done down at the firm. So we had budgeted when we did for 25 and 26, 700,000. We needed a little egg. We needed to know we had money there for the winter and kind of basing that off of different things that we saw. And then we got all of those grants for all of the work that's being done down there. And as noted in here, we had allocated that 700,000. We have expended we had gotten 1.173 million in grant funding. We have not done a budget amendment to up that expenditure side. So it's showing that when it compacts all of those funds that are under City Hall, it's showing that we've used 46% of all of that money because we haven't updated the expenditure amount for erosion control to reflect the money that's been spent on the revenue side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Golf course financials. We got that management company. And the whole caveat to getting that management company is that the city would have nothing to do with it, aside from if you need a little money because it's winter, we agreed on that 50,000, or you wire us money when you do things like get more money revenue at the golf course. So this is twofold, and it's what will lead us into agenda item number 3. So the last note 3, with the financials that went out, was the netting project that was expended from, the Golf Course Fund 102. That has to be updated by a budget amendment for the expenditure of that project. So that's another one of those budget amendment. We weren't inclined, we have notated everything that requires a budget amendment. We were not inclined to do that budget amendment under the advisement of Tara until we got through this project, because it was kind of pointless. Like, let's get through all the fun cleanup, let's get through the cost allocation, and then we'll do one big budget amendment and go through all of the things that have been approved, move the monies that on your agenda bill, it says whether it requires a budget amendment, and it shows the reflection of that money moving over. So that will probably happen in end of October, beginning of November, when we start like the levy stuff and all of those things. So that's another one that looks like, hey, we're out of line here, but that is a direct budget amendment issue. So,
Makes sense.
golf course. I have never put golf course stuff in the finance committee, packets because explaining their financials is extremely hard. We had gone back and forth for months about their financials, and we got to a place where we thought we're on to something. We're seeing invoices that coincide with what we think is the bulk of their expenditures. And they had asked us for more money last month, and I said, all right, the gig is up. I don't get it. What are we doing? And then the comment was made about the golf course having just a stellar month in June.
June,
The city received $842 out of that spectacular month.
City received,
Yeah.
$842.
Why so low with what? they're
Well, because what coincides with that revenue is that the golf course makes decisions because they're a management company that the city has no say in. So we started going through, Shantae first, me second. I asked a few others to look at this. And we started asking questions. And in my opinion only, and it can be the finance director's opinion, however you want to pose it online. I didn't appreciate them. When you say to me that, well, $1,500 over short has been taken care of, that's not taken care of. $1,500 over short in my department would be somebody stole, somebody lost money, somebody wrote a check wrong, somebody did that. I need you to explain why the city is responsible for employees they don't employ under HR provisions they don't adhere to. So that was question one. $1,500 went out the window. City paid for it, over short, gone. The month, the June, where the expenditures were, or the revenue was high, they chose to spend $2,000 on uniforms. I don't know who works there. I mean, a shirt would be cool, but I mean, I bought this for $30. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. And maybe that's just me being uneducated, but that's my problem. Is at what is the responsibility level of the city to be educated in the capacity that we're having to nickel and dime everything you're looking at? Because once you have one stellar month, we get $842 and then a request to wire $20,000 later.
Sarah, I mean, this goes back to how many months and months ago was it that we had that meeting with Troon when you were discussing the financials with them? And so the first question is, has that improved? Are you getting financials that you can understand now?
We can understand them. I mean.
But not necessarily not necessarily the reasoning for
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but at that point,
Accurate, and they're on time.
yeah,
There's a gal that
Okay.
they kicked the other gal out that was not helpful.
right,
And they put a girl in, and she is very responsive. She
okay,
does what she's supposed to. I don't think this is a financial issue. I think this is a management issue.
okay.
And my problem is that when we went through that, it kind of sparked because I wrote that 2.5-page letter.
You did.
And the reason I wrote that is I'm confused. You can pay me $10,000 and I'll do your financials. You know what I mean? Like that, I mean, they have their management side, but why are we paying this money if then after we've done an entire municipality's financials, we have to sit down and do a golf course's financials? You know what I mean? There should be a difference. What is that management fee for? And then that in lies, the management fee changes every month. 1 month it was 11,000, 1 month it was 8,000.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell me what is in that fee.
Not consistent.
I was a part of the RFP process. I sat in every single one of the interviews with all 3 of the RFP submittals. I went through every single council meeting. What we bought wasn't what we were sold.
So what's our recourse at this point?
So our recourse and at very minimum, our management fee needs to be half. Based on what we're having to go through, what the city is still spending, the expenditures that are going into that golf course because of these things aren't aligning with what the citizens and the council, the mayor at that time, and the mayor we currently have was a council member. They were not told what we are receiving. So at very minimum, I would love to be able to see our management fee go in half. Nobody at the city is trying to say we can go run a golf course.
Yeah.
But maybe there's I don't want to say liaison, because it's not like, I'm not talking like council liaison. There needs to be an approval process. There needs to be something, like when you say you have an awesome month and the city receives $842. You chose to spend all that money. At what point does the city say, hey, out of all of your revenue, your expenses should only be 50% of that revenue? Or whatever somebody higher than me comes up with, something has to change, or we have to go find something different.
So how do?
How can we help?
Is the solution potentially we fire True and hire somebody else?
I don't
I'm
know.
asking an opinion, not a department.
I don't really know what you do. I don't know if you put it, the council had made a point with us, with the city and the, professional service agreements that we have, our janitorial agreement, our IT agreement. You wanted to see those RFPs go out every other year or whatever it was. No automatic renewals, no whatevers. Maybe the council say, we've done this. Do we go out and see if this is our best one again? Would they even apply again? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want the city to be put in a place with the golf course, because we aren't taking on a golf course. Nobody here is qualified. I can barely swing at a ball. Like, that's not helpful. But if that's the case, then meet us halfway while we figure these things out. If we're buying the equipment and we're buying the uniforms and we're paying your over and shorts, I am not paying you an $11,000 management fee.
Well, they're not managing it at that point.
Yeah.
Those would be my questions.
How long does the contract go with Troon?
It's until we go. I think it does have a date,
I thought it was
an expiration date, but that was like the thing is because it does take a lot for an RFP of that.
Absolutely.
So I could appreciate, but it doesn't hurt to start. I mean, we're in year 2, 3, yeah, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I would really, from the financial perspective, as the finance committee, start talking to your other fellow council members about what should we do? What do we want? I don't want to do golf course financials, but if it's cleaner, we can be some part of it, but you're not paying my department $11,000. This, you know what I mean by that? And that's not all management. They have staff, they have tea times and all of these
Yeah.
things. That's management, and if that's fine, but, we're just bleeding money into that place right now. And
They sell goods, the golf clubs, like all of the stuff that goes with golf plus food and alcohol. We have zero control over that. So what they purchase, is that what they're selling? Like that was also.
was that being purchased for the golf course or somebody that worked there?
Yeah, to be spending that amount of money and receiving that, as a revenue.
Why?
We have no control. We
Basically.
don't even know, like
Well, and they have gone to a cashless system now because of some issues. And so I am curious to see how that all plays out. But they also need to train their staff.
If we're paying everything, we should not be paying a management fee.
No, we should not.
What I hear you saying basically is there's the potential, I'm not accusing anybody of anything at this point. There's the potential that we are paying for inventory that they're selling and we're not receiving any of the proceeds from that.
Or they're not even going into the inventory. I wouldn't even go as far down as saying that about somebody. They might not even be being inventoried into the system to reflect in the financials that they've been sold. They could have been sold, but they're not reflecting them. because the inventory didn't get input.
There has been a question actually for a long time now about the actual management. One of the things that is glaring in my memory is we were promised when we were talking to Trim about their grounds expert who was going to dot the Ts and cross the Is and make sure that not 1 ounce of extra fertilizer was applied that would wash into the waterways. And that grounds expert has only been in Ocean Shores for a half a day, 1 day since they started the contract. And that was one of the things that sold me because of my concern for the waterways. And so the long and short of it is the more I learn about Troon, the less happy I am with what we were told as opposed to what we were receiving. And if we need to make a change, and even if we need to get Kendra involved to coerce a change, I don't know what the steps
Yeah,
are.
I don't know that they're not perfect and we're just not. Yeah, I think we just have to reevaluate what we're doing. Before, we went from one extreme to another. We went from a leasee who would come to council and ask for a bridge repair or an irrigation system and just didn't pay us rent. That was our agreement. To a management company who we pay and we pay this and we pay that and we pay for management and we just kind of talk about our expectations, but I don't know that, are our expectations being fulfilled? I just think that this is a really good time. 4 years, if it is, for finance to say, based on the financials and kind of what we're seeing, is this viable? You have a lot of things coming up. You have fire breaks you want, you have infrastructure needs, you have street things, all these things, and we're bleeding money for a golf course. So it's like, what are we putting our nuggets into? Let's look at that. And if this is the best way, cool. I'll keep telling you, here's the golf course financials.
That make absolutely no sense.
What I hear you saying is that we, the city, would benefit by having an expert, somebody with Tara's ability to scrutinize and forensic.
That's just the financials. That's just the financials. I think the council.
It's broader than that.
Just need to explore all options. We were under the gun also with that because we were done with the previous leasee and we had to find something. Nobody at the city is qualified to run a golf course and operate it. So my opinion only, if you think you are, that don't mean any harm. But I think it's just a really good time. And I think that the viable questions that Shantae and I had again with the financials, like how far deep do you want us to go into these every month and how closely are we supposed to report and say what's happening? Because right now it's just money out, money out, money out.
And it shouldn't be that way with a management company. They should be able to go in and, it's just like having a property management company. They should be able to go in and charge their fees and support themselves. Now, something major like with the irrigation system.
Sure.
But these financials that I've seen from them make 0 sense.
Well, I think like a lot of these too, not to belabor the time, is like you think of your own financials. If I want my revenue to show a lot more, I'm gonna do a lot less. I'm not gonna spend all that revenue because then it's no longer looked at as revenue. It's just an expense. And so I was surprised and unfortunately, when announcements were made, it was just simply an email. Awesome month. Well, then when you go and look at the salaries and you look at the over and shorts and you look at the uniforms.
Yeah. And it's June. This is supposed to be one of our busiest months.
It should be our peak
Yeah.
profit.
June, July, August. Is the time where we get $133 for June.
Yeah, and looking, the whole thing with uniforms, all I've noticed, because I've taken up golf and they have polo shirts. $2,000 for polo shirts. Where did those come from? And did the city pay for those?
Yeah. You pay for everything that's in their financials. You, the
See, that makes no
citizens,
sense
Ocean
to me,
Shores.
because to me, any company I've worked for, and I had a uniform, I had to buy my own uniform.
So anyway, like I said, I don't know golf in that capacity. It's just getting to the point where I'm getting nervous at what eyes will turn to me and my responsibility level when it comes to financials for a golf course and reporting that to a municipal government.
Well, and I think it may be time for us to look at putting it out for an RFP again.
And if they're the best, then they'll be the best.
We have to maintain that $50,000
Yep.
operational fee. So if they fall, far behind that $50,000 for their operational fee for Troons, that's when we get a request to make their account level again. And we do verify all of that with.
How much have we given them? Just this year, roughly.
Last year, I will say last year,
Okay. Whatever year.
probably in the hole about 190,000.
That is ridiculous. The city should not be in the golf course business.
Well, I mean, that's supposed to be the purpose of having a
Exactly.
match.
Exactly, and they are not doing what. they
And
told
maybe
us
we
they
just
were
didn't
gonna do.
understand it. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's time to, I'm coming to my committee. Public Works wants to come to theirs, whatever. My committee is the financials. I'm not letting it fall on me, like, we have to figure something out because it's not viable.
Yeah.
If the city finds themselves in place, where will we be at if we can't spend $200,000 on a golf course?
Every year.
We're not putting those kinds of funds, erroneously into our police or fire departments. We're not, you know what I mean? They're not calling us and saying, hey, our account fell below 100 grand. Can you just, another 100 over? They can't do that. So anyway, anything more on the awesome golf course?
But I would just say that I still believe that the golf course is a great asset for the city. But I'm gonna qualify and say a well-run golf course is a great asset. And even if it's only just breaking even on the finance books, all of the other side issues, the tourist that it brings in, the recreational value, those all count for something. But this seems to emphasize what we have been told for many months, that the management is subpar, for that operation. So I'm fully in support of. What do we do? And if it's an RFP, hire a new management team, motivate the existing management team to do their job. I don't know what that answer is, but.
And there are some fantastic people that work there and golf there, and the men's club and the women's club and all of those things. And I know they try everything, and I think they would even appreciate as citizens and residents of this community some help in what do we do at this point? So all of that information, if anybody's interested, and when we went through that RFP process, all of the RFP information, all of the videos of our interviews, all of that stuff is still located online. So feel free to review the process and what we went through, and because it sounds like we need to prepare anyway, if we're close to the 4-year mark, and mayor and city administrator can only do so much in that capacity. Like, that really is a council decision, so you guys gotta do it. Haha. That's my immature side.
I think it's time to move forward and do something. We can't keep.
So how do we
I think we need to set up a meeting with Frank about it.
Yeah.
set up a meeting
With Frank about it, about the golf course.
my question was gonna be, how do we, the finance committee, get the city council in line and understanding what the problem is and what our options towards fixing the problem is.
I think we need a little bit more information before.
That's where I'm at. I don't know enough right now.
And that's why I think we need to set up.
Yeah, I
a
think
meeting
then-
with the mayor and the city administrator about it.
I think, Councilmember Cyrus is completely right. I think, I can give you this information, but really that is a conversation between council members and, the executive directors of the city. So I think next points will be those, like, it will be,
Cause it's more than the financials and.
Yeah.
And there's been problems with the management right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I remember that financial meeting that we had with them, we were trying to deal with some of it, and that's been over a year ago.
yeah,
That's-
and we did get a little
Yeah.
bit.
But apparently not everything.
Yeah. All right, moving on, last one's super easy, but this is, so I know that Becky dropped the, streets bombshell for 3 million some dollars, maintain our streets and, again, a lot of that comes to saving. I know certain people could hate the word savings when we're talking about general fund money and taxpayer money. But when I say that to you, it's projects just like that. It is equipment, it is inventory, it is maintenance, it is, replacement funds, and that's what we have. We have replacement funds. We kind of use them. I think that Public Works and I think Alex was there, was he not?
He was, off.
Or talking to Alex, like the city, and this is a good segue after a council or a golf course, is the city needs to start getting really serious about starting to put money away for equipment and maintenance for these roads out here. They keep talking about the jetty being repaired and Ocean Shores Boulevard, and don't worry about it because they're gonna have to do that. Great. What happens when they don't? We've watched funding get pulled, we've watched projects get pulled. What happens if it doesn't? And that's where the budget season make it different. Like and that will be the conversation we have with department heads. And I know that, the mayor will back us in that capacity, where when we go and ask for things, you better be asking for things that you need to start putting money for.
Yeah.
Aside. Stop coming and asking for $300,000 pieces of equipment that you've known for 4 years,
Had to have.
you had to have. Start using the resources that you should have been using this whole time. So what spun me out of control, here's a small deal. And I'll honor this to Mr. Dooley because it was your Facebook post that made me spiral in circles. The $3 million. So what is the TBD fund, Transportation Benefit District Fund? So we passed this, and it's a 0.01% tax that the city gets that you are supposed to build projects off of. And not necessarily like huge projects, but what spun me out of control and why I was happy it was brought up via social media is last year when I'm going through the end of the year financials, I'm like, oh my God, are we allowed to backdate Transportation Benefit District? Because when you don't use those funds, you are automatically using general fund, bottom line. So that drives me crazy. So things, and that's something that, Ocean Shores has a bad habit of, is it's either gotta be big or we don't worry about it. No, every time you go and spend $1 at 7-Eleven, it adds up quick, and that's the same thing. When you do road striping and you use the general fund, when you could have used Transportation Benefit District money, you have now taken away that little $67,000 that could have been put into the street reserve fund. You've now lights. So, I put in this is like a huge, and we've got it, on our website too, but, MRSC does an incredible breakdown of the Transportation Benefit District and what it can be used for and what we want to use it for. And a lot of it is maintenance and stuff like that, but it's like very much traffic control, safety, these things. So when I hear arguments Such as, well, that's not what we intended the money for. Well, you didn't intend the money for safety? Like, I mean, it literally says that in the rules. So the lights at the roundabout, hands down. The lights for the, school zones, are you kidding me? All day long. You know, these are projects that could have been happening, along, and I think it was at Speed Cushions, and I said, hey, what if we use TBD money to put school zone ones up? And the mayor freaked out, like, every time we're doing something better and not using general fund money, we should just change that out. Then general fund money goes to the side for that, the next go around. So the transportation benefit district, how it works is it's a tax, the tax happens, it's given to us by the county, and then the council is the transportation benefit district. So you're required to go into a special meeting during a council meeting that's the same as the council, and it's all very redundant. And you do a budget request, just like you would do a budget request. It's very simple. It's like it's super simple. And so that was my challenge to the street department 4 months ago, I think, and that's where all of those cutouts, because I can tell you, those cutouts would have come out of the general fund, hands down. Had we not gone and said, give me a list.
Yeah.
I want to do projects, but you don't have time to figure out. We're a couple months into the year. Give me a list of maintenance you know is gonna happen, and it has to happen. And so if you follow the transportation benefit district, we've done 3 budget requests for them. The road cutouts, the lights, and the striping. And so the road cutouts are expensive, where they cut those pieces out and they fill them in, and they're all over town. And Alex did an excellent job, and that got him a couple months worth of work that would have absolutely had to be done, or it would have gone undone because it didn't have money budgeted for it. And then it would have had to have been an emergency. And instead it was, let's think out of the box. Find your projects, find your maintenance, find your things. Do I think we're ever gonna get to $3 million a year for maintenance on the roads? Absolutely, unequivocally not. But what I do believe we can do is start strategically planning the maintenance and utilizing transportation benefit district funding as it comes in, because we get about $500,000 a year from that. And if that's how much it's gone up, is because it's gone unused. We just book it to the general fund. Well, I panicked.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it has a general fund number on it, I'm checking it, you know, because that's the fallout account. Our utilities have done pretty well. So yeah, in June's finance or revenues, we're at 2.3,470,000. No, 2.347 million in transportation benefit funds. So
Question, so all these stop signs and speed cushions and all that, is that coming out of this fund?
no. You're required to go to the transportation benefit district. Last year, the one, and it was something stupid like $5,000. And it was what we paid in publication, I think, for the street master plan.
Yeah.
And that should have been paid to TBD, but it was never asked. And you cannot, it is no
Okay.
different than a utility fund. You cannot arbitrarily spend that money.
Okay.
So you have to go through that sequence of events in order to have approval to use it.
So-
Backdated, as you
No.
said, right at the.
So-
We get
So-
audited. Yeah.
Had that request been made, that is something that could have been approved to come out of that funding.
Yeah, anything traffic, and again, this is all very like educational too, because it's like, it's gone unused for so long that people don't even
I
almost
forgot
know
about
it's
it.
there. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just like a lot of education where it's like, oh, but we're getting there, we're making plans, but yes, and that's what we will do. Absolutely going forward. And then of course, as they go through and kind of navigate that plan as they did the capital facilities plan and say, hey, these are the big priorities. I think that's when you'll see us kind of spend down that TBD money to do those major maintenance issues that have gone a long time without being completed.
So if I can, I would like to interject a thought, a pondering, as a council member used to say. One of the things that my big takeaways from the AWC conference in Kennewick were all about project management software and how it can be used. And what you're just describing, if we had a functional project management tool, all of these kinds of things could be input into there. There's a corollary that goes with that called Citizen View, UE, where anybody can pick up their phone if they've got the app is free, and say, there's a pothole on the corner of Elm and Yesler. And then that goes into this pot of potential projects that the street manager says, oh, these are things that we can address. And to me, that whole project management, along with that citizen view type of input, potential project input, gives us the big picture so that these things get put into the correct TBD account instead of somebody says, oh, we've got to fix this street cutout. And all of a sudden that comes out of the general fund because there was no prior planning.
Yeah, I know have maps that they use through the CAD system that tell them when different things have to be done. And I again go back to, Becky uses some project thing. I'm not a project manager and, but it's education. There's so many new people here. There's so many, things that are getting dipped into that people are just educating one another. And as soon as I said it to Alex and Becky, that's their first question. Hey, where should this even come from? Like that's their first, and I go research it, or I say, okay, I think I got some. I asked Shante, I don't know that it's programs or they have their maintenance things. It is education, and that's where I'll leave it. I'm not a project manager. If they need a program, Becky can talk about that. I don't know.
And I think she's looking at ways to.
I don't know.
better
I can't even fit into Becky's office. I don't even go in there. I don't know what Becky is.
And hopefully if we have a public works director, we will be a little bit more proactive in.
Well, and that's the other thing.
Capital facilities, that's
And-
something we've done.
And her chasing everybody or them chasing us because we right now don't have that one person that can just, you know what I mean? Where I have all of my staff and they can come to me and I can relay that. It's all of them trying to relay the needs and the requirements and stuff. And they're doing a incredible job. It'll be good for them to public works director. It'll be great. I don't know if there's,
Well,
yeah.
one more question, not related to that, but related to the MRSC and the
Yeah.
assumption of powers. When I was reading that paragraph and I went and I saw that it looked like 85% of the TBDs have used this assumption of powers. And I don't really understand the legality of it, but it sounds like that once a council does the assumption of powers, then there is no longer, it says a separate transportation.
I don't know that we've officially ever done an assumption of power.
Well, we haven't. I mean, I went and we are listed as one of the few that have not done. What my question was that if we did an assumption of powers and we had the council without, doing a separate transportation district, does that do anything to the transfer of funds? Or,
I would assume you don't have to go into a special meeting at that point.
Right.
I don't know, and I would have to educate myself, and ask the questions. I don't know if that just has to go back in front of the county or if you just deem it that way, like I don't know, we could look into that though.
I don't know, it just seemed curious to me that
Yeah.
we were one of the few, cities
Yeah.
that did not do that.
So they cliff notes on what is assumption of powers.
It's in here. I mean, I can't give you the Cliff Notes. All I did was read about it and the link that Sarah had sent.
That's the MRSC document.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't put anything in, for 6-year transportation improvement plan. I had said to the mayor and city administrator, hey, I'm just gonna touch on it very briefly, because truthfully, it's none of my business. Like, it's truthfully a Becky thing, but because we were talking about like streets and the 6-year transportation improvement plan, we do it annually, we up it by 6 years. And it's our dream, like, it's our dream plan. And what it does is when we submit that, list of whatever we have on it, 25 or something like that, they're not in priority level, they're not at all. It gives us the ability to apply for WASDOT grants. If we don't have a project and you'll see ones that are kind of framed in like a really broad way, because it's like, what if it's down that road? We might do it. So it's putting them strategically on that list so that when something kind of close to it comes up, that's why we got the WASDOT money for the High Dune Trail, because the High Dune, it was like High Dune, fire break, blah, 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 on this deal, and we could apply for the green. So that was all I was gonna say about that. Going into the nit and grit of it would be, respectful of Becky's time. Good? Okay. Last thing, 5 seconds, we're sick of hearing me talk. Normally, you would have already seen the auditors swarming, and we would have done entrance and exits, and the city of Ocean Shores has supplied the auditors with all things that they require to begin your audit, which is a ton of stuff already. Their big takeaway is their timeline, specifically, end of August, I think it is, if you need a single audit. So a single audit, or if you spend over $750,000 in grant funds for the previous year, so 2024. We didn't, ours came in at like 500 and something, so we didn't require a single audit, so they put us to the back of the line. So, our audit is gonna be, what we get audited on every year, our procurement policies, our credit card receipts, our invoices, financials. What we do is dual controls, which we're gonna tighten up in a couple of our other departments. There's been things that I want different. So, the auditors are gonna help us achieve that. So what you will see is we aren't out of the dark yet. We have, or the first and second week is when they'll do their demands for documentation for all of these things. Third week of September, third week, they'll audit it, we will be gone. And then the fourth week, they will say if they need any more, and by October, we should do our exit conference, and that's when they'll tell you if we royally screwed up to 2024 or if we did a great job, which we did a great job. So
It's gonna be a great job,
yeah,
because you have.
but I just wanted, normally we've got more to tell about the auditors by this point, and
Yeah.
it was nice, not nice, but
Yeah.
nice, like.
Yeah.
We were both kind of surprised, like, you don't want to start till September?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm really sorry.
Shocked, didn't it?
We've made almost everything in the city digitized, of anything like that, public record stuff or audit, financial, especially financial. And so it'll be really nice, because she wanted to do like 2 years worth of things, and because we didn't have to do that single audit, she was able to get all that uploaded. So as soon as they say go time, it'll just be links that we're sending to them of whatever they ask for.
Sounds like it'll be a lot quicker.
Yep.
Nice, good for you.
That's it. I was speed talking for 64 minutes. Anything else? Anybody?
No.